right, looks like we got technical difficulties right off the bat this morning. For those of you who are maybe out there, hit me a comment or something. Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you guys hear me this morning? Looks like my little earphone things aren't working. Um, Brenda, can you hear me? Good morning, Houston. All right, good deal, good deal. No, I wear those things. Thanks, Chris. They say it sounds a little bit better, but anyway, they're not working this morning, so you're going to have to deal with whatever quality my phone gives you. So, but anyway, to get started this morning, I just wanted to thank um, all of my faithful friends who supported me last night as I watched my Chiefs go on to victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. And so, Houston, my Chiefs did win. It was a tough game, lots of calls. Everybody's blaming the win on the refs. You know how it is. But anyway, we got it done, and again, I had a fun time texting back and forth with so many people who just loved me so dearly. And yeah, that's not true. They gouged me all night long, and anyway, I was so thankful to win and to be able to smear some pie in their face. So anyway, we had fun with that, and so. But we're not on here to talk football this morning. I definitely don't know enough about it to do that, and so anyway, I do need you to know that it's National Bubble Wrap Day. Very important day. Probably not going to get off work for that one, but is a very important piece of our lives. What would we do without bubble wrap? Need you to know that bubble wrap was intentionally made to be wallpaper. Didn't work out too well, so they repurposed it, and now I'm sure the bubble wrap people are so glad they did. So anyway, now you know it's National Bubble Wrap Day. And so, but the main reason we get on here is in order to talk about the awesome stuff that our God teaches us. And so this morning we're in John chapter 18. And of course, we've just finished up with chapter 17 last Friday. And again, got to see this amazing prayer that Jesus prayed. And the last, I guess, recorded prayer, of course, outside of how he prays here in the garden. But the one that is written down for us to show us his heart and what his desire is for us to be unified in the faith as we continue to live our lives following him. And so in chapter 18, we get back, good morning, Faye, we get back to what was going on. And we see Jesus' arrest. We see him before all of these leaders, the people, the Pharisees, the ones that hated him so much. They've done everything in their power to get rid of him, and so again, a long chapter. Not going to read it. Just feel led this morning to pull out Peter. Obviously, he's the one that kind of rises to the surface here. 1 minute at the beginning, we see Peter literally standing up to hundreds of Roman soldiers. As you read the narrative of what happens here, literally this detachment of Roman soldiers, literally it could have been hundreds and hundreds. They had seen Jesus' power, and so I guess they figured they better show up with what they had in order to seize him. But he did show his power to them, as it says that the moment that Jesus introduces himself, when he replies that I am he, it says the mob fell backward to the ground. Doesn't say that they tripped over each other. It just says that they fell. So you could just imagine, just as Jesus said who he was, I am, literally that power just knocked them all to the ground. And could you imagine that experience? Could you imagine being there, knowing that you're supposed to take this Jesus captive, and everybody had just fallen down just at his words? And obviously we can take so much out of that, but anyway, at this moment, Peter, he's standing there with Jesus, and he's seen everything that Jesus could do. He's just watched them all fall down. And so, good morning, Lori. You could only imagine the confidence that Peter had in that moment. He's standing with Jesus. He's been with Jesus. He trusts that he's on the right side of things, and so he believes that Jesus is going to take care of him. And so he decides that he's going to pick up a sword and take on the whole army by himself. And of course, you know the story. He cuts off a man's ear. Malchus is the name that we have in Scripture. And but I can just imagine Jesus' thoughts, and just, Peter, what are you doing? This is not how we do things. And who do you think you are anyway? You're going to take on all these guys by yourself? And so literally Jesus steps in, just like always, and he fixes the situation and puts the ear back on the man. And you could only imagine what kind of testimony that was to this soldier. But the thing that I want us to get to is the fact that 1 minute he's standing up with the sword and ready to take on this whole army. But then once Jesus is taken and into their custody, and now it says Peter and another disciple followed along behind them as they took Jesus into the courtyard of Annas' palace. And it says, since the other disciple was well known to the high priest, he entered in, but Peter was left standing outside by the gate. Again, a pretty sad moment. Jesus has been arrested. He's taken captive, and again, Peter and all these disciples, they just knew that he had come to take over and to destroy these Romans, and now they have taken him captive, and he's letting them. You can imagine the defeat, the discouragement, everything that Peter's dealing with, and now they go inside, and he's not important enough. He's left behind. You see, Peter was a nobody when Jesus called him. I would say a lowly fisherman at that point. Their trade was not seen as anything to be desired at all. And but he'd become somebody as he had followed Jesus, and he had gained confidence in himself. But now he's by himself, and Jesus, it looks like his fate is not too good. And of course, we don't know who this disciple was that was well known enough to the high priest. We assume it probably could have been Nicodemus, possibly John himself, but more likely Nicodemus, because obviously he was of their fold there, if you will. But the point that I believe we need to see here, the point that I think is really there for us to pick up on, is the fact that as long as we stick with Jesus, good morning, Shannon, as long as we stick with Jesus, man, life is different. We've got a confidence that we don't have any other time. There's a peace. There's just good morning, Shannon. There's just life. When you're living life with Jesus, this abundant life that he speaks of, the joy, all of this that he brings into our life, even when hard things happen, if we stick with Jesus, we're not going to revert back to our old selves. Good morning, Barry. We're not going to revert back to our old selves. We're not going to, we're not going to do what Peter did, because one minute he's picking up a sword, he's ready to defend, he's cutting off ears with hundreds of soldiers in front of him, and the next minute he finds himself denying him. And folks, we do the same things, don't we? We don't need to throw too many stones at Peter this morning, because so often we'll come to church on Sunday and we'll praise him and we'll tell stories, and then Monday morning we find ourselves back at work or wherever we are, and now we're put in a position to where we need to live and be a certain way in order to be a witness for Jesus, and we for the sake of our own rep and not being labeled as a Bible thumper or whatever, we shrink back and we don't take the opportunities. And it brought to mind back in John 15, if you'll remember, when we talked about the fact that in John 15:5 he says, again speaking about us having to stay connected to this vine, he said, I am the vine and you're my branches. As you live in union with me as your source of life, it says fruitfulness will stream from within you. But when you live separated from me, you are powerless. Well, folks, we see that acted out in John 18 as we see Peter go from this fearless warrior to now he's denying Jesus. And so what do we learn from that this morning? Well, we might want to stay connected to Jesus. We might want to keep doing this kind of stuff. We might want to keep getting up in the morning or whenever it is that you're spending time with him, because that's when we draw our strength. That's the things that we do in order that we can live with confidence. And as God pours his goodness and his love and just his grace and all this into my life, now I can go out and live my life, not denying him by how I live. I know we're not put in positions very often where people actually, ask us, are you a Jesus follower? Now, sometimes it might happen, but I believe most of the time it happens as we cower to just things that everybody else is doing that we know just isn't for us anymore. And again, I don't have to elaborate on that stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so it's allowing our language to slip back, and it's not that the God's shaking his fist at you if you let a cuss word slip, but it your witness it just kind of melts away, and anyway, there's just all kinds of things that we do that cause us to deny him. But the good news is here that at the end, John 21, we get to see who God really is. We get to see him. He doesn't hold this over Peter's head. He restores him and does it in just an awesome way. And he shows him that this thing is about love. And if I love you, I really love you regardless of the mistakes that you make. And so if you've been struggling with being that witness, and if you've been struggling with maybe denying him by the way you're living, listen, he's right there, and he wants to forgive you. He wants to restore you this morning. And so anyway, that's my take on John 18. Obviously, so much more here is Jesus is going to the end for us, and pointing to the cross here. And so I look forward to chapter 19 with you tomorrow, and just seeing this journey and all that Jesus has done for us. And so today, have confidence in the fact that he loves you. He's not mad at you. He does want to talk to you. He does want to spend some time with you. And he may want to restore you today, just like he'll do Peter here in a few chapters. And so, love you folks. You guys have a fantastic Monday. And anyway, we choose what we make it, right? So let's choose to make it a good day. Anyway, love you guys. We'll talk tomorrow.